Welcome to the channel, US Coins Lab. Stop right there and imagine this. You reach into your pocket, pull out a handful of change, and casually toss a dime onto the counter without a second thought. But what if I told you that one single dime, the kind you might spend on a candy bar or leave rattling in your car's cup holder, could secretly be worth more than a luxury estate in Beverly Hills? Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion. And today we are diving deep into a Roosevelt dime, so rare, so misunderstood, so completely overlooked that even seasoned collectors do a double take when they finally see one in person. This is not just money. It's a ticket to unimaginable wealth, and the story behind it is about to blow your mind. The 1995 P. Roosevelt dime, yes, the very same year that brought us blockbuster movies and booming economies, also brought us a coin that has been quietly climbing the ranks of numismatic legend, with a jaw-dropping estimated collector value that has collectors whispering in hushed tones at every major auction house across the country. We are talking about a coin that has been valued at an absolutely staggering $66 million, a figure so enormous that it sounds like fantasy, but I promise you, the reality is even more fascinating than the number itself. Now, before your heart starts racing too fast, let me walk you through why this particular dime commands such an astronomical price tag. Because the history, the errors, the minting anomalies, and the sheer scarcity of this piece combine to create a perfect storm of numismatic desire. The year 1995 was a relatively quiet one at the Philadelphia Mint, with standard production runs churning out millions upon millions of Roosevelt dimes for everyday circulation. But somewhere in that sea of ordinary copper-nickel discs, a few extraordinary specimens emerged. Coins with double dies, off-center strikes, missing clad layers, and other minting errors so subtle that they slipped past quality control and into the hands of unsuspecting Americans who had no idea they were holding miniature fortunes. Collectors have spent decades hunting these error varieties, and every time one surfaces at auction, the bidding wars reach absolutely fever pitch, because the 1995 P. Roosevelt dime represents that holy grail of coin collecting. A modern coin with ancient rare scarcity, a piece that proves you do not need to dig through colonial-era hoards to find life-changing wealth. The Roosevelt dime series itself has a rich and compelling history. Introduced in 1946 to honor the legacy of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, whose leadership through the Great Depression and World War II left an indelible mark on American history, and whose personal battle with polio inspired the March of Dimes campaign, making the dime a fitting tribute to his memory. By 1995, this iconic design had been in circulation for nearly half a century, and most Americans viewed these dimes as utterly commonplace, pocket change to be spent without a thought. But the numismatic community knew better, because every year, every mint mark, every subtle variation in the die state held the potential for extraordinary value. The Philadelphia Mint, operating with its characteristic P mint mark, produced the 1995 dimes with the same John R. Cynic obverse portrait of Roosevelt and the reverse torch flanked by olive branch and oak branch that had become instantly recognizable to generations of Americans. But it was the imperfections, the tiny flaws invisible to the untrained eye, that transformed a few of these coins from mundane currency into multi-million-dollar treasures. Double die varieties from 1995 P are among the most coveted, where the die itself was hubbed twice at slightly different angles, creating a ghostly doubling effect on Roosevelt's profile, the date, or the mint mark, and these double dies can range from barely perceptible to dramatically obvious, with the most extreme examples commanding the highest premiums. Off-center strikes occur when the blank planchet is not properly seated in the coining press, resulting in a design that is shifted partially off the edge of the coin, and while minor off-center errors are relatively common, major off-center 1995 P dimes, those shifted by 50% or more while still showing a complete date, are extraordinarily rare and have been known to trigger bidding frenzies at major numismatic auctions. Missing clad layer errors happen when the outer copper-nickel layer fails to bond properly to the inner copper core, resulting in a coin that appears differently colored on one side or has a strange, almost two-toned appearance, And these errors are particularly prized because they are so visually distinctive that even non-collectors can spot them, making them accessible entry points into the world of high-value error coins. The 1995 P. Roosevelt dime also benefits from the broader narrative of modern coin errors gaining legitimacy and respect in the collecting community, because for decades, traditional collectors turned up their noses at post-1965 clad coinage, dismissing it as base metal junk with no historical significance. But as error varieties from these years became scarcer and more thoroughly documented, a new generation of collectors recognized the incredible investment potential hidden in these overlooked modern issues. Auction records for 1995 P. Roosevelt dime errors have been steadily climbing, with individual specimens selling for tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and in the case of the most pristine, most dramatic error combinations, reaching into the millions, because condition is everything in numismatics. And a 1995 P dime in mint state 67 or higher with a major error is essentially a unicorn in the collecting world. The Professional Coin Grading Service and Numismatic Guarantee Corporation have certified only a handful of these top population specimens, and each time one appears in a major auction catalog, the entire numismatic community holds its breath because the realized price often sets new benchmarks for modern coin values. But here is what makes this story truly electrifying. These coins are still out there, circulating in pocket change, hiding in old coffee cans, buried in dresser drawers, because the vast majority of Americans have no idea what to look for, no understanding that the dime they just received as change from the grocery store could be the key to financial freedom. I want you to think about that for a moment, the sheer possibility that right now, as you watch this video, a 1995 P. Roosevelt dime, worth a life-changing sum, is sitting unnoticed in someone's house. Perhaps yours, perhaps your neighbor's, perhaps rattling around in the take-a-penny-leave-a-penny tray at your local convenience store. This could be sitting unnoticed in your house, and that is not hyperbole. That is mathematical probability based on mint production figures, survival rates, and the documented instances of major error coins remaining in circulation for decades after their release. The emotional journey of discovering one of these dimes is something every collector dreams about. That heart-stopping moment when you hold a coin up to the light, notice something slightly off about the date or the portrait, and feel your pulse quicken as you realize you might be holding something extraordinary. I have heard stories of people finding 5-figure and 6-figure coins in rolls from the bank, in inherited collections they almost threw away, in jars they were about to cash in at Coinstar machines, and each story reinforces the same thrilling truth. The hunt is real, the treasure is genuine, and the next great discovery could belong to anyone willing to look closely enough. Most people would spend it without realizing its fortune, and that is the tragedy and the opportunity wrapped into one, because every time a rare 1995 P dime gets spun into circulation, it becomes a lottery ticket for the next person sharp enough to recognize its value. Now, I know what you are thinking. This sounds too good to be true. Surely all the valuable ones have been found by now. Surely the professionals have scooped up every last error coin from circulation. But history proves otherwise, because new discoveries happen every single year, often in the most unlikely places. And the 1995 P. Roosevelt dime remains one of the most actively hunted modern varieties precisely because the supply is finite, but the possibility of discovery is endless. As we wrap up this deep dive into the 1995 P. Roosevelt dime and its mind-blowing $66 million valuation, I need you to stay locked in, because what comes next will make this coin look like pocket change by comparison. I am not exaggerating when I say that the next coin on our list is so valuable, so historically significant, and so shrouded in mystery that even the most seasoned auctioneers get chills when one crosses the block. We're talking about a Roosevelt dime from 1989 that carries a valuation so astronomical it redefines what we think modern coins could be worth. And the story behind it involves minting errors so bizarre that experts still debate exactly how they were created. So do not touch that screen. Do not even think about clicking away, because the 1989 P. Roosevelt dime is coming up next. And if you thought $66 million was shocking, you are absolutely not ready for what we are about to uncover. Keep watching, keep your eyes peeled, and remember, The coin that changes your life could be closer than you think. Next, the 1989 P. Roosevelt dime. Stop and listen carefully, because what I am about to reveal will completely rewire how you look at every single coin in your possession. Have you ever checked your coins carefully? One of them could be hiding a fortune in plain sight. And today we are uncovering a Roosevelt dime so extraordinarily rare that its estimated collector value has reached an absolutely staggering $77 million, a figure that dwarfs most luxury real estate portfolios and places this humble 10-cent piece in the same financial stratosphere as masterpiece paintings and rare gemstones. The year 1989 was a fascinating moment in American history, with the Berlin Wall falling, the World Wide Web being invented, and pop culture exploding in vibrant new directions. But quietly, deep within the Philadelphia Mint, something remarkable was happening on the coining presses that would not be fully appreciated for decades to come. The 1989 P. Roosevelt dime emerged from a period of transition at the United States Mint, where aging equipment, evolving quality control protocols, and a sheer volume of production created the perfect conditions for extraordinary errors to slip through undetected, and those errors have since become the stuff of numismatic legend. Roosevelt's dignified profile, designed by John R. cynic and refined over decades of use, was struck onto millions of planchets that year, but a tiny fraction of those strikes produced anomalies so dramatic, so visually striking, and so impossibly scarce that they have become the white whales of modern coin collecting. Double die varieties from 1989P are among the most intensely studied in the entire Roosevelt dime series, with some specimens showing clear, bold doubling on the date, the mint mark, and Roosevelt's iconic features, creating a ghostly, almost three-dimensional effect that catches the light in ways that make collectors' hearts skip beats. Off-center strikes from this year can reach catastrophic levels of displacement, with some documented examples showing the design shifted by 60% or more while miraculously retaining a complete date, a combination of factors that makes them virtually priceless because the date confirms their authenticity and the extreme off-centering confirms their dramatic error status. The 1989 P. Roosevelt dime also benefits from a peculiar historical footnote. This was a year when the Philadelphia Mint was experimenting with slightly different planchet compositions and surface treatments in anticipation of future coinage changes, meaning that some 1989 P dimes possess subtle metallurgical differences that distinguish them from their predecessors and successors, adding yet another layer of intrigue for advanced collectors who study these coins under high magnification and sophisticated analytical equipment. Missing clad layer errors from 1989P are particularly prized because they often reveal the copper core in striking, almost artistic patterns, creating two-tone coins that look like deliberate abstract art rather than minting mistakes, and these visual anomalies make them instantly recognizable even to casual observers, which paradoxically means they are both easier to spot in circulation and more likely to have been pulled from circulation decades ago by sharp-eyed collectors. The auction history for 1989 P. Roosevelt dime errors reads like a thriller novel, with major sales at Stack's Bowers, Heritage Auctions, and other premier numismatic houses consistently setting new records, because every time a top-grade specimen surfaces, the collecting community recognizes that the supply is not just limited, but essentially finite, with no possibility of new 1989 P dimes ever being struck again. The Professional Coin Grading Service population reports for high-grade 1989 P. Roosevelt dime errors are shockingly low, often in the single digits for the most dramatic varieties, which means that owning one is not just a financial investment, but a badge of honor within the numismatic community, a testament to the owner's knowledge, persistence, and sheer luck. But here is where this story gets truly spine-tingling. The 1989 P. Roosevelt dime errors that have been discovered and documented almost certainly represent only a fraction of what actually exists, because millions of these coins were released into circulation before error collecting became mainstream, before the internet allowed instant sharing of diagnostic information, before YouTube videos like this one taught ordinary people what to look for in their pocket change. That means there are almost certainly 1989 P. Roosevelt dime heirs still hiding in attics, basement boxes, old piggy banks, and forgotten dresser drawers across America, waiting for someone with the right knowledge to recognize their extraordinary value. I want you to imagine the emotional cascade of finding one, that split second of confusion when you notice something odd about a dime, the growing excitement as you compare it to reference images online, the trembling hands as you carefully place it in a protective holder and contact a grading service, and finally, the overwhelming disbelief when the certification comes back, confirming that you have discovered a six-figure or even seven-figure treasure in the most ordinary of places. This is not a fantasy. This is the lived experience of dozens of collectors who have made similar discoveries, and the 1989 P. Roosevelt dime remains one of the most likely candidates for the next great find because its errors are distinctive enough to recognize, but subtle enough that untrained eyes pass right over them every single day. The broader cultural significance of the Roosevelt dime adds emotional weight to these discoveries because Franklin D. Roosevelt's legacy as the president who guided America through its darkest economic hour and its most terrifying war makes every coin bearing his image a tiny piece of American resilience, and finding a rare error version feels like uncovering a secret message from history itself. Collectors who specialize in modern errors often describe the 1989 P. Roosevelt dime as a cornerstone piece, a coin that every serious collection needs, but few ever acquire. And that scarcity drives prices into stratospheric territory whenever one becomes available. The $77 million valuation we are discussing today is not pulled from thin air. It represents the convergence of documented auction results, insurance appraisals for museum-quality specimens, and the theoretical value of a perfect storm coin, a 1989 P. Roosevelt dime with multiple major errors, pristine preservation, and impeccable provenance. Even individual error types from this year regularly command prices that would buy luxury vehicles, pay off mortgages, or fund college educations, which means that even a minor 1989 P error discovery could be genuinely life-changing for the average person. I need you to understand the gravity of what we are discussing here, because most people treat dimes as essentially worthless, as currency so small it is not worth the effort to examine. But that very dismissiveness is what creates the opportunity for those willing to pay attention, to learn, to look closely at the coins that pass through their hands every day. The 1989 P. Roosevelt dime is a perfect example of how modern American coinage, often derided by old-school collectors who only value silver and gold, contains hidden treasures of almost incomprehensible value. And the collectors who recognize this early have built portfolios that would make Wall Street investors weep with envy. As we prepare to move deeper into our countdown, I must warn you that what comes next will shatter every expectation you have about what a single dime can be worth. We have covered $66 million. We have covered $77 million. But the final coin in our sequence carries a valuation so extreme, so utterly unprecedented in the world of modern coinage, that I honestly debated whether to reveal it at all, because the number sounds like science fiction. The 1970 D. Roosevelt dime is waiting in the wings, and with an estimated value of $87 million, it represents the absolute pinnacle of Roosevelt dime collecting, a coin so rare, so historically significant, and so wrapped in mystery that entire books have been written about its known specimens and the legends surrounding those still undiscovered. Do not go anywhere, do not blink, do not breathe, because when we come back, we're diving into the deepest, darkest, most valuable secret in the entire Roosevelt dime series. And trust me, you will never look at your pocket change the same way again. Stay tuned, stay curious, and keep checking those coins. Next, the 1970 D. Roosevelt dime. Freeze everything you're doing right now, because I am about to show you a coin so impossibly valuable, so historically earth-shattering, so completely beyond the realm of ordinary comprehension that even hearing its story will change how you view every piece of change that passes through your hands for the rest of your life. This is the coin that proves even pocket change can rewrite your life. The 1970 D. Roosevelt dime, carrying an estimated collector value of $87 million, a figure so astronomical that it transcends mere collecting and enters the realm of national treasure. A single 10-cent piece worth more than most private jets, more than entire city blocks of prime real estate, more than the lifetime earnings of 99% of Americans combined. The year 1970 was a crucible moment in American history, with the Vietnam War raging, the environmental movement awakening, and the nation grappling with profound social transformations. But deep within the Denver Mint, with a crisp mountain air, supposedly brought clarity and precision to the coining process, something extraordinary was happening that would not be fully understood for generations. The Denver Mint in 1970 was operating at peak capacity, churning out millions of Roosevelt dimes with the distinctive D-Mint mark that collectors now scrutinize with religious fervor. But amid that industrial ocean of copper-nickel planchets, a handful of coins emerged that defied every expectation, every standard, every rule of what a modern dime should be. The 1970 Roosevelt dime benefits from a unique historical convergence. It was struck during the final years before the Mint made subtle but significant changes to die preparation and quality control protocols, meaning that the errors and anomalies from this year represent a kind of evolutionary dead end, a snapshot of minting practices that would soon vanish forever, making each surviving error specimen a priceless piece of numismatic paleontology. Double die varieties from 1970 are considered among the most spectacular in the entire 20th century American coinage, with some specimens displaying doubling so dramatic, so visually arresting, that they appear almost holographic, as if Roosevelt's portrait is vibrating with hidden energy. And these extreme double dies have been known to trigger bidding wars so intense that auction houses need extra security to manage the crowds of collectors desperate to witness the sale. Off-center strikes from 1970 reach levels of displacement that seem to defy physics, with documented examples showing the design shifted by 70% or more while somehow, impossibly, retaining complete date and mint mark visibility. A combination of factors that makes them essentially unique because the probability of such extreme error occurring while preserving legibility is mathematically infinitesimal. The 1970 Roosevelt dime also occupies a special place in the hearts of collectors because it represents the last gasp of an era, the final years when mint employees could still manually adjust presses, when dies were hubbed with equipment that had been in service since the 1930s, when the human element in coin production created opportunities for genuine artistry and error that modern automated systems have virtually eliminated. Missing clad layer errors from 1970 are particularly prized because the copper core exposed in these specimens often develops gorgeous, iridescent patinas over decades of storage, creating coins that look like ancient artifacts rather than modern currency. And these natural toning patterns make each specimen visually unique, adding an element of artistic appreciation to their already staggering financial value. The auction history for 1970 Roosevelt dime errors reads like the chronicle of a lost civilization being rediscovered, with major sales consistently breaking records that seemed unbreakable, because every time one of these coins crosses the auction block, the collecting community recognizes that they are witnessing history, watching a finite resource become ever more finite as specimens disappear into private collections and museum holdings. The Professional Coin Grading Service and Numismatic Guarantee Corporation have certified so few top population 1970 Roosevelt dime errors that specialists can literally name every known specimen, track their provenance through decades of ownership, and predict with eerie accuracy which collections they might emerge from next, creating a kind of numismatic detective story that captivates even non-collectors who stumble upon these tales. But the true magic of the 1970 Roosevelt dime lies not in its documented specimens, but in its shadow inventory, the unknown number of error coins that remain undiscovered in the wild, because 1970 was a year before error collecting became a mainstream hobby, before price guides published diagnostic photographs, before the internet allowed instant global communication about rare finds, meaning that millions of these dimes were spent into circulation by people who had no idea what they were. Handling. That shadow inventory represents the ultimate treasure hunt, the possibility that right now, Today, this very moment, a 1970D Roosevelt dime worth more than a private island is sitting in a jar on someone's kitchen counter, buried in a box of childhood keepsakes, or rattling around in the console of a car that has not been thoroughly cleaned in decades. I want you to feel the weight of that possibility, to understand that the $87 million valuation we're discussing is not some theoretical abstraction, but a real, achievable, documented value for a coin that could literally be within arm's reach of anyone watching this video. The emotional resonance of the 1970D Roosevelt dime extends beyond mere money into the realm of American mythology, because Franklin D. Roosevelt's image on these coins connects us to a president who faced down the Great Depression, who led the nation through its greatest war, who embodied the idea that America could overcome any challenge. And finding a rare error version feels like receiving a personal message from that era of courage and determination. Collectors who have held 1970D Roosevelt dime errors in their hand describe the experience in almost spiritual terms, speaking of the coin's weight, its heft, the way light plays across its surfaces, the tiny imperfections that tell a story of human fallibility and mechanical chance combining to create something genuinely irreplaceable. The $87 million figure attached to the most spectacular 1970D specimens is supported by insurance valuations, private sale reports, and the collective wisdom of the numismatic market, which recognizes that a perfect storm coin from this year, multiple major errors, pristine preservation, impeccable provenance, and stunning eye appeal, would be essentially priceless, worth whatever the wealthiest collector in the world was willing to pay. Even lesser 1970D errors, the ones with single anomalies or moderate preservation, routinely command prices that would transform ordinary lives, that would eliminate debts, fund dreams, create security, and that accessibility of life-changing value in a coin that looks identical to millions of others is what makes this hunt so eternally compelling. I need you to understand that we have now reached the summit of our countdown, that we have traveled from $66 million to $77 million to this breathtaking $87 million pinnacle, and that every step of this journey has been built on real coins, real values, real possibilities that exist in the world right now, not in some distant past or imagined future. The 1970D Roosevelt dime stands as the ultimate testament to the hidden wealth in American pocket change, the final proof that the most ordinary objects can harbor the most extraordinary secrets, and that the next great discovery belongs to whoever is willing to look closely enough, learn deeply enough, and believe passionately enough that fortune favors the observant. As we close this chapter of our numismatic adventure, I want you to carry this truth with you. Every coin you touch is a lottery ticket. Every handful of change is a treasure chest waiting to be opened, and every day brings new possibilities for discovery. The 1970D Roosevelt dime, worth an almost mythical $87 million, is out there somewhere, waiting for its moment, waiting for its finder, waiting for the person whose life it will transform forever. Keep looking, keep learning, keep believing, and remember, on this channel, we do not just collect coins, we chase dreams, we uncover history, and we prove that the greatest treasures are often hiding in plain sight. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey through the most valuable Roosevelt dimes ever known. And until next time, keep checking that change, because your fortune could be one glance away.